Hi folks, Russ Dickey from GoMotorBids.com, and today we're doing a review on possibly the most incredible drag racing die-cast collectible ever produced. It's the gigantic 1/6 scale Greer-Black and Prudhomme vintage front engine dragster from the 1960s. Now this car has been produced in various scales before, such as 1/24th, and even GMP did it as a 1/18th scale car. Beautifully done, but one of the things that we wanted to capture in video that you really can't see in still pictures on the internet is the true size of this thing. So get a look here. Here was the first version that GMP did in 1/18th scale. And this is the box that the 1/6 scale version comes in. Almost 30 inches long, only 200 of these produced worldwide, and if there ever has been a museum quality die-cast collectible, it's the one inside this box. We're going to open this one up and show you all the cool details that GMP included in it so you guys can see truly why this thing is so magnificent. Okay, so when you open the box, you'll see how well this thing is packed, and we'll kind of open this thing in phases so you guys can check it out. But there's the size of the box this bad boy is contained in. Okay, again, before we open it up, 1/18th scale, 1/6 scale. Okay, so once you get the inner packaging out, it has the styrofoam packaging, you'll see your accessory pack here, which includes your white gloves for handling, your instructions for assembly, and even a little Phillips head screwdriver for putting it together. Okay, so once you carefully cut the outside tape from the edges of your styrofoam packing, take off the top and you can see how this incredible machine has been packaged by GMP. Don't let this be too daunting. I know that when you first see something like this, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to be some kind of an expert model builder to assemble this thing, but you really don't. It's just some snap together parts and screw together parts, which we're going to show you guys how to do, and you'll have a beautiful, gigantic dragster ready for display. But you can see how they've individually done all your body panels, engine block, cylinder heads, your distributor, tires, wheels, belt, and whatnot. And we're going to go ahead and show you guys how to assemble this. Okay, so here's all the parts out of the box. As you can see, just the dragster itself almost 30 inches long. And just check out some of the incredible detail that GMP put into this 392 cubic inch Hemi. It's got actual metal gaskets. I'm assuming they're supposed to replicate copper gaskets, but I doubt that they're actually copper. Check out the Hemi valve, or the cylinder heads on this thing that they did. This is awesome. You can actually take the valve covers off and look at the detail they put into the valve train. Pretty amazing. Okay, so the first step that you do is you simply are going to mount the engine block itself into the chassis. And they have 4 little motor mounts, and there's 4 little tiny Phillips head screws that will affix to the bottom of the block once you actually set it in there. Okay, so here's a little trick when you are mounting the engine in the chassis. Don't try to fight it by putting it in the car, then flipping the body over and trying to hold it and screw the screws in from the bottom all at the same time. If you'll notice, the motor mount tabs actually have a slot in them. So what you need to do is go ahead and affix your screws to the bottom of the block just loosely, and then you can slide them into the tabs and tighten it up once you get the motor in the chassis. Okay, so once you get your block put into the chassis, you can affix your water pump, plumbing and stuff to the front there, and it just slides on. Now it's time to do the wheels, and the wheels are held on by 4 tiny little Phillips head screws. This is the back set of wheels, and you'll notice there's a pair of pegs here on the back side of your wheel hub that aligns with the 2 little slots in the brake rotor. So once you get those on there, then it's simply affixing a Phillips head screw right in the center, and it'll hold on to the axle. Okay, so once you get your wheels and tires screwed onto the axles, then it's time to put your center caps on. Now the front caps, if you notice, they actually just slide inside inside the wheel. There's nothing that actually affixes them or snaps. They simply slide in and out. This is a place where, as a hobbyist myself, I would probably recommend putting a light dab of white Elmer's glue around the edge of this, and then you can put it inside there and it will stay on there. And the reason that I would say use just typical old white Elmer's school glue versus like a stronger hobby glue is for several reasons. A, it's really easy to clean up. It dries clear, and it doesn't hold strong enough to where if you ever need to get these off, you can just pretty much twist this cap and that Elmer's glue will pop loose, but it's got a strong enough hold to hold it in there permanently. The back caps, they're a little bit more secure. They actually have a little peg inside there that slips into, or a little slot that slips into a guide and will hold them on. So they'll hold a little bit better. Okay, so the next step in the assembly process is to put your cylinder heads on. As you can see, I took the gaskets off when I put the engine in because they kept just falling off. So now you just lay your gaskets back over and then carefully affix the cylinder head. You got to line up all the little holes with the studs, and this takes a few minutes and some patience. Okay, actually getting the cylinder heads on wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. They actually popped right on fairly easily. So the next step is to go ahead and set your blower on top of the cylinder heads. Again, lining up the studs with the holes. Okay, so now that the supercharger's on, the next step is to go ahead and put the blower belt assembly on. And this is actually where I got ahead of myself a couple steps ago, where we hooked up the water pump and stuff to the front of the motor. We'll actually disconnect that. And again, it's just held in there by friction, so it just pops out. And then you'll slide the blower belt over the top of all your pulleys just very carefully, making sure that obviously the ribs stay on the inside and you can line them up with the grooves on the pulleys. Okay, so next step, and I'll correct myself from the previous step before all the flaming starts on the video about, this guy didn't know what he's talking about. I've been referring to this as the water pump the entire time, and this is actually the fuel pump. On all you hardcore drag racing fans will know that. But the next step is to attach the fuel line that comes from the carburetor assembly down to your fuel pump, and it just simply inserts there. And then after that, you attach the throttle rod at the back of the supercharger to, there's a little peg that sticks out from the foot pedal, and it takes a little jostling to get it right. And a flathead screwdriver we have found is helpful in this step, but you just affix that on there. Okay, after that, you have a fuel pressure gauge. It simply has a peg on the bottom and slips into the appropriate hole at the back of the block. And then you have your cooling lines. Also have two inlet holes at the back of the cylinder heads. You'll insert those, and then there's another tube that runs down to the back of the farthest rear header on the right side of the car. Okay, so next step is to put the distributor into the back of the engine. And then you can simply run the wires to the appropriate cylinder head holes. One thing that we'll note is that GMP did not provide a firing sequence order, or the distributor is not labeled, so getting onto the internet and just finding a guide would probably be very handy at this step to figure out what the actual correct firing order is. Also, the spark plugs that go into the distributor, you may have one or two that has come loose during shipping. They simply insert right back down in there, but this is a step where tweezers will definitely become very useful. Okay, so after doing the spark plug step, again, I want to reiterate, tweezers are definitely a must for this one. And with regards to the firing order, it looks like GMP's already got that figured out for you, because once we started doing it, we realized that they have given you the appropriate length of wire so that you know the longest wires on each side simply go the farthest forward. So once you actually insert them into the spark plug holes, you can just slide the wire separators down, bend the wires back, and then lay them out as you see fit. They've also provided these little clear covers that simply fit over the 3 pegs here. We're not going to put them onto our display model because it looks like once they're on, they're on. And so because this car is going to be auctioned off, we're going to let the future owner will take care of this step. So on our photo car and our example car here, we're not going to put these on. Another thing to note is that as you're laying out the wires, there were a few wires that came loose from the top of the distributor cap. And one thing that we talked about is very easily you could just take another drop of the white Elmer's glue, put on there, get it in place, let it sit overnight, and that'll keep those from pulling out as you lay your wires out. Okay, so the final step of assembly, for the most part, before you put your body panels on and your scoop on, is to affix the steering linkage. And it's a big heavy metal rod that simply slips over the steering shaft here, and there's a little hex nut that goes here. And on the front side, same exact thing. You've got an idler arm up here in the front, and it literally has a little screw with a hex nut that will go through your idler arm. And once you assemble that and put the screw on the bottom, you are done with the steering assembly. Okay, so once you put the injector scoop on and the body panels, you're pretty much ready to display it. Give it a final wipe down with some Diecast Delight or in a microfiber cloth. And by way of comparison, I mean, you can see how huge this thing is sitting in front of me. And for way of comparison, once again, there's the 1/18th scale version that GMP offered a few years back, so you can see the size difference of this thing. We recommend setting aside probably an hour to an hour and a half from the time that you get the box to the time it's in this stage right here. It just takes a little patience and a set of tweezers and a steady hand, and you'll have it assembled. But this is going to be on our auction block here very soon. We've got several more that are just like it, so these will be going up for auction. The original retail price of these was about $1,800, and again, only 200 of them were produced worldwide. So good luck bidding, and thanks for watching all of our videos here on GoMotorBids.com.